Um, this is interesting. Rob Badlam says that my partner and I both enjoy making things. Trouble is, our house is very small and neither of us have dedicated maker spaces. Also, we both have very different ways of working. I am the type who has to put everything away at the end of every session. And my partner, she is from the cleanup at the end of the whole project school. As a result, I end up not making much at all, and she ends up spreading her stuff all over every flat surface in the house. It's become a bone of contention. Any advice? Is there an infrastructure solution that could help? I mean, aside from moving to a new house. Well, I mean, it sounds like just in asking the question, you're starting off on the right foot, because this is all about compromise and balance. Neither of us have dedicated maker spaces. You aren't saying that it is impossible for you to have dedicated maker spaces, but I'm wondering what you're thinking of as a dedicated maker space. Are you thinking of a bench or a room? You don't have I ask that because I'm wondering if one solution is that each of you has a bench somewhere in the house that you can utilize. I'll give you an example. This Christmas, my wife bought a bunch of paper mache craft paper ornaments to paint. And she pulled out some watercolors she'd bought years ago and has spent the last 6 weeks hand painting these ornaments. And it's been a really lovely journey for her, aesthetically, temporally. It's also been feeding her a lot, that she has this collection of beautiful ornaments, and there's been a real progression, like there always is with a project like that. And to facilitate this, we have this our living room is weirdly shaped, in which there's this kind of no man's land between one of the couches and the windows on the front of our house. And it's just, the room is too long. It's a long room, and there's a fireplace in the middle of one of the long walls, which means you either put couches that can take advantage of the fireplace and have all this room on the outside, and we have grappled with a lot of different versions of setting up the social space of our living room so it foments conversation and we can use it on a daily basis. And the solution we've come up to is that the couches are closer to the fireplace, and there's this no man's land between the couch and the window. So my wife put a table that we had there and covered it, and has been using that as a crafting table in the living room. And that's been lovely. And she leaves all that stuff out on that table. And I have I have a bench I have a workspace in my office that I utilize for the making stuff that I do end up doing at the house, which is minimal, but it still happens. It sounds, the way you're describing your two personalities, that a compromise needs to happen. And that compromise sounds to me like, at least at the bare minimum, there's a space that you can count on will be there for you. And at the bare minimum, your partner has a space that she can leave stuff on. I think that sounds to me like, it's funny. I like the idea of a live stream as relationship advice remaking, because it's non-trivial. It really is. I will tell you that when my wife and I are collaborating on projects in the house, my mode of working is intense. And it takes a lot, in most of the places in my life that I make things, I'm where the buck stops. And so I'm very comfortable running a job and delegating to people to make that job happen. Direct collaboration, it happens with the team here, but not in the realm that I'm in, right? And so our working styles are very different. We have very different rhythms in our working styles. And consequently, I have to pay a lot of attention. We both actually, I'm sorry, it's not just me. We both end up paying a lot of attention to our states of mind as we're doing those things. And it's not trivial. We've definitely gotten real salty with each other over the years, trying to collaborate on various house projects. It is non-trivial. So I appreciate the question. And other if you have other comments or coping mechanisms that you have developed with your partner, I'd love to know about those in the comments, because making stuff is messy. It is, by its nature, chaotic. It is deeply personal. And all of these are things that are recipes for conflict. The trick is recognizing that the potential is there and not trying to not, you're never going to eliminate conflict. You're just going to manage it. Yeah, that's really the thing. Again, it's the thing I said earlier. It's not a problem to solve. It's a conundrum to manage. Aaron Lennon asks, what is a preferred size of workbench? Length, width, and depth? And what all gadgets should it have? I need to build a true workbench, not a catch-all like my other benches. Well, every bench is going to be a catch-all, man. They are all going to end up being a catch-all because, again, it's a process. Hold on just a second. Let's give you the official depth of this bench. I think it's 26, yeah, by 60. And I like this height, 38. That's just a little taller than some workbenches. 26 by 60 by 38. Is that what I said? 38? Yeah. That's my ideal size. Actually, in my desk at home, I bought a high school lab desk that's 24 by 72. That is also a phenomenal form factor. We'll find a link to the one that I bought because it's a stunner and it's terrific. And it's got that black surface. It's really hard to stain. It's hard to mark. It's fantastic. The things that you should have on a workbench are lights. I believe in lights attached to the bench. I want to be able to look at things up close. I think that every bench should have a frangible surface so that you can work on the bench and not necessarily damage it. I love having, and this next part is just about watching your own work process, but I always need a power strip close by on a workbench. I'm always plugging stuff in, and I have another power strip which I'm planning to install up front here because the one that's right here is still a little too far away from me sometimes. So I want to put one right down here so it's at my disposal. And like I said at the beginning of this, I've only just determined that my workbench needs to have the permanent storage of all my Dremel bits and tools here in the bench instead of 5 feet away from the bench. And that is a great place to wrap this up. A lot of these questions about best practices for me are all about there is no single solution and there is no perfect solution. And so if you've been holding out on trying to add some infrastructure to your shop or to make it more usable, but you haven't implemented it because you're not sure it's the perfect solution, I want to implore you to just try it. The only way you're going to determine whether or not it's the perfect solution is not in the abstract. It's only in the concrete. So you got to try it. You got to push your shop in a direction, and it's plausibly going to be a total failure. But the failure will tell you which direction you need to go in. So it is a process of both self-awareness, watching how you work, how you like to work. Every time you get up and go get something, you're like, oh, I can't believe I got to go get this hammer. Every time you think that, you should be thinking, maybe I need to have the hammer closer. That's self-awareness. And it is a process of iteration. So I don't think of this workbench as a static object. I think of it as a living thing because it is constantly changing. I've changed the power supply that sits underneath it 3 times, but maybe that's because I keep burning out the power supplies that sit underneath it. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects,
questions. You get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.